Okay, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. This is our second round of Global Talks powered by Fab Foundation and basically done by the Fab Foundation Forum Initiative. Today we will be doing our panel with the South Asia Network. Last week we had a super interesting global talk with the Fab Lab Network, where we discuss, where we interact related to COVID response and how the community got together and engaged to this rapid response that was done globally by the Fab Lab and Maker community. So today, what we will do is we'll go to another region. What we're trying to do is how to go around the world and identify common problems, common solutions, common future responses that will go around COVID-19 pandemic, basically, and the crisis that we're globally facing. So today's session will be moderated by Nishtha from India. She has kindly supported us in this journey of getting all these panelists and all these interesting people that will talk about their journey. And with no further ado, I will give it to Nishtha. Nishtha, good morning.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Norel and Francisco. This session is a follow-up session from a global talk on 23rd May. Where each region shared the major works from the Fab Labs across the world. And I'm grateful to all my panelists for finding the time to join this panel, which is probably the first such discussion during COVID time in our region. There are many Fab Labs and Fabbers who are doing wonderful work, and we'll try to sum up the bit we can in the short span of time. First, I would like to introduce the panelists. We have Mr. Vaibhav Chabra from Makers Asylum. We have Mr. Maha Singh from Zeus Makerspace, Fab Lab Chandigarh. We have Dr. Yogesh Kulkarni from Vigyan Ashram, Mr. Nadeem Ahmed from Fab Lab Kochi, Dr. Hasnat Solaiman from Fab Lab SAU Dhaka, Bangladesh, Dr. Pradeep Kurulkar from DRDO, and Mr. Hemant Gadal from La Foundation Dissolve System. So to begin with, we would start with Mr. Vaibhav from Makers Asylum. Makers Asylum's team organized India's biggest maker community organized initiative. They also had an active crowdfunding campaign to help raise funds for their cause. We would love to hear Vaibhav's and his team's journey, challenges, and efforts behind these big figures. Over to you, Vaibhav.
Thank you, Nishtha. Thank you, Noel. Happy to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Quick little introduction. So Makers Asylum started about 7 years back as a Fab Lab, as a makerspace in Mumbai, with a thought of creating a space for people to share tools and make things. We're a completely self-sustainable lab. That means that we don't have an organization that funds us. We're independent, we pay rent, we are structured individually. So when India went into the nationwide lockdown and everything went shut, it became a big problem for us. And we were trying to figure out how to sustain at the same time, how to do things, because we have staff, we have employees, we have people who are part of the community who were there. So what myself and a few of my team members did was we decided to quarantine ourselves inside Makers Asylum instead of going back home. So the entire team of Makers Asylum, the 5 of us at that time, decided to bring our bags, bring everything, and start sleeping at Makers Asylum. And we started making different little projects, and we started by making face shields, which are right here. And when we made our designs, we started receiving a lot of inputs from doctors that we were posting online about how we can make them better. And we really realized how big the problem was, even in India, when it came to face shields, because India never really produced face shields. So when doctors started asking for these face shields, we made about the first 500 of them at Makers Asylum. And we started a crowdfunding campaign thinking that we will make 1,000 at our lab. However, when we sent the first batch out to Bangalore and a few other places, we realized that the entire ecosystem is choked. The delivery system is not working. There is no way that you can transport stuff from one place to another because delivery is off. Logistics wasn't a problem. Vendors were a problem. So what we did is we open sourced the designs. We activated a lot of labs. We reached out to as many labs as possible that we knew, including Ashram. Dr. Kulkarni is here, so he'll talk more about it, and other labs and makers across the country. And in no time, we had over 300 volunteers joining in. And we were able to give out 1 million 10 lakh face shields in less than 49 days. So to just put that into perspective, the first 100,000 face shields took us 15 days to make. The next 100,000 took us 7 days to make. And 1 million was made under 49 days. So if you look at the scale that was going, towards the end, we were making over 100,000 face shields in a day. That's how we were able to scale the initiative, and the labs were able to ramp up their capacity from making 0 shields into hundreds of thousands of shields on a daily basis to be able to provide to the healthcare workers. And these were all volunteers. These were 300 volunteers who would never, most of them weren't even makers before. So to just give you a perspective, the youngest member was 12 years old, who was making face shields at home with a family. There were filmmakers sitting inside their houses and making face shields in Guwahati. There were people in Jammu and Kashmir who were making them. There were doctors in Odisha making them. There was a group of volunteers, women-driven volunteers in Kolkata making them. So all these people just got together, people who did not even know each other, 300 of them, to work together towards making the shields. That was the start of the initiative, I would say. The reason why I say that was the start of the initiative is because most of these labs and most of these individuals not only made the face shields, but were able to make a lot of other things, including us, where we're making PAPRs. Now, these are, we're making the first batch of the 100 that we're planning to send out, replaceable filters and everything. This is portable, personalized air pressure purifier. So meant for high-risk environments where they get purified air. However, the problem was that we reached out to, some of the problems was that we reached out to a lot of grants and we reached out to a lot of places to be able to get support for distributed manufacturing, because what happened over here was a very, very distributed, decentralized approach towards a pandemic-like situation, which is exactly what's required so that you're not manufacturing in one place, but you're manufacturing locally and servicing your local ecosystems, especially the hospitals locally, and giving them what they need. So that was the thought behind the initiative. So if you think about it, that for this, we tried to raise a lot of grants. We applied for everywhere. However, few issues that we faced over there was one, grants are very traditional bodies. They haven't evolved a lot. So a lot of the feedback that we got from grant giving organization is that they want to give grants to companies which already have capacity to increase capacity instead of give it to people who can actually decentralize that approach, which I thought was a little off. The second thing that we faced issues with explaining to somebody's voice is off. I think Luis Magana, could you put your thing on mute? Sorry. Yeah. So on the other side, one was the grant issue, and the funny part was the we were able to
Vaibhav,
yeah.
Can you mute, please?
Yes. So the grant giving bodies took too long to be able to react and give or work with individual labs across the country to be able to support them at the time when they most required it. So that was one little issue that we saw. The other thing, the bigger problem was with regulations. So it took us about 3 weeks to make the PAPRs at the lab. we made 5 iterations. We tested them at IIT Bombay. We tested them at AIIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi. We tested them at Kasturba Hospital with doctors, and we got some great feedback, and we were able to evolve the design every time. Similarly to the face shields, which are right here. I can show you how they look. However, the issue was to be able to get the regulatory body, and I'm happy that somebody is here from DRDO, because we reached out to the DRDO, we reached out to all the possible bodies in terms of certifications, because there was so much fake certification going around, especially when it came to the CE certification, that we had no idea what is right and what is wrong. So we reached out to every single body. So many agencies reached out to us, giving us CE certifications for 5,000, 8,000 rupees without even testing in a laboratory. All the testing laboratories were not available in terms of, because of the lockdown, all the testing laboratories were shut. Even for something like face shield, we don't have tests for it in India, I guess, because we tried a lot, researched, but we weren't able to find a testing laboratory. But you were able to get a CE certificate for 8,000 rupees. That was different, so less than about $100. So that was slightly weird that we found in terms of the way things were working. So in terms of the regulations, I definitely think that there should be ways in which the regulatory body must work with labs like Fab Labs and makerspaces, because if regulation works hand in hand with innovation, then you're able to really evolve much faster. However, in the current circumstance, what happens is that the innovation progresses really, really fast, but the regulatory bodies are still where they are. So to be able to then get them to regulate at a time like this becomes a very, very slow process. So literally, we've had the PAPRs in our lab for 3 weeks, and we haven't been able to give them out. We've just gotten some go-aheads from hospitals and doctors who want it, and they're taking it, but still we haven't gotten the right certification where we're confident. I mean, we're confident about a product, but we're not confident about the right regulations because we weren't able to navigate our ecosystem in the past 2 weeks to figure out the regulations, but we were able to navigate the ecosystem to be able to create PAPRs. So just to show you the two paths, and I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say. But lastly, I just wanted to talk about the human level of the initiative as well, which you rightly pointed out, which is the fact that if you look at it, we were able to give out 1 million face shields, but at the end of the day, all these people, but what was at the back of it, and Dr. Kulkarni can add to this, was all the individuals and people and each and every soul that risked themselves in all different ways, because at the end of the day, all of us as well, and each and every lab moved away from their families, moved inside their labs, did not meet anyone, tried to follow as many protocols as possible in a very, very scary situation to be able to provide whatever they could to the healthcare workers. And I think at the end of that, I would just want to mention that these were all not necessarily all Fab Labs or makerspaces, but these was individuals who were doing this. So a big shout out to everyone over there that was part of the collective, and thank you. Back to you.
That's a lovely insight, Mr. Vaibhav. Thank you so much. I have just one thing I would like you to share with us. How did you do the quality management of these face shields? Because I am sure that would have been very tough. Not everyone is aware about the curves and the thickness and the burn marks, right? So how were you able to manage the quality of the face shields? That must be very challenging.
Sure. So when it came to the quality of the face shield, so one, at our own lab, we were able to work with a lot of doctors. So we had one of the volunteers at our lab was a neuropsychologist. Another one was a senior surgeon from MGM Hospital. They actually also got in at the lab and they stayed with us for the entire 49 days instead of going, because they weren't required at that time in the hospitals. So luckily we had their support, and with them, we were able to design these much better, get a lot of feedback, get a lot of inputs. We made 21 iterations of the face shield before we got to where we are today. But in the middle, we gave hundreds of them, hundreds of thousands of them at different versions of them. And I think Dr. Kulkarni, and we can also add to the different versions that we had. However, when it came to the sanitation and the quality and all of those things, what we did for ourselves, we followed a very, very strict protocol When we worked, we wore masks and face shields and had sanitizers and a few other protocols. Even the plates at Makers Asylum are labeled with each and every one of our individual names. The mugs, the spoons, nothing was shared amongst any individual member. We shared a lot of this with all the other labs. So we made videos, we made messages, we shared all the protocols that we were taking at our own lab, because Mumbai, where we're based as Makers Asylum, is the worst hit city in India. So we followed a very, very strict protocol in terms of, honestly, I don't want to say this in the weird way possible, but the way we treated ourselves is that each and every one of us treated each other as if each and every one of us had corona, so that we don't transfer our corona to the other person and the other person does not transfer their corona to me. So that's how we were able to work and stay in the lab till this time. And even today, when we work, which even today, there are 6 members of Makers Asylum living inside Makers Asylum. So I came back home today. Most of the days, even I stay there. So sometimes I go back and in, but otherwise we're all living at Makers Asylum. So even today, while working on the different projects. So even now, all our plates are labeled, all our spoons are labeled, everything that we eat from is labeled, our tables are labeled. If I'm supposed to assemble, I work on the same table every day. I don't change my table. So just like all of those little things that we were just making sure to make sure that we don't transfer anything to each other. And most importantly, anything that went out from the lab did not transfer anything out. Does not leave the lab with any sort of a virus if there was a virus inside the lab. So we were just taking whatever precautions that we thought were apt, thanks to the doctors that were in the room to help us and guide us to be able to help contain the virus if it came inside the lab.
All right, that's a lot to grasp. Thank you so much. And moving on to Mr. Mahavir Singh, Principal Architect and Partner at Zio's Makerspace, who happens to have headed industrial design and prototyping leads for more than 34 startups in last 16 months. He's currently leading the Fab Lab Chandigarh network with 3 Fab Labs focused on education, startup and STEAM. Over to you, Mahavir. Please go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Nishtha. So, I mean, I can relate to what Vaibhav spoke about, and definitely the same issues were here itself. So about us, the way we managed stuff was that, so we have a Fab Lab Chandigarh and Fab Lab Mohali, which is active. And at Chandigarh, we're dealing with startups and ideations and prototyping for whatever work is being done for COVID. At Fab Lab Mohali is the place where we are doing the manufacturing of face shields. So 2 separate causes, but that's how we kind of keep some control over what's going out in the market from our end and what's being developed, because a lot of people involved in developing these products. So, I mean, the second thing is that we, as far as what we're sending out in the market personally, it's only the face shields, because I mean, our only motive is this, that if we can trust our product with our own baby, or let's say our own grandfather, then we can actually ship it out. But if we can't trust our product to help protect or cure or do whatever about COVID, then we should not promote it. And the reason being, most of us are technical, from a technical background. So we call ourselves non-medical makers. And there's some from biological and some from other streams, but not exactly, most of them, I would say, are from a technical background, which is a kind of a very different story, because now you're expecting technical people to make medical devices, which could get flawed without the right proofs. So the approach that we took was we immediately reached out to the medical device manufacturers and we offered our services to them. They saw the work we did, the kind of casings we developed. Since it's an architectural design-oriented lab at Chandigarh, we know our ergonomics, we know our fluidic lines, we know whatever we make is not typically a box. So they were ready with their electronics within a week or 2. And obviously this is about a commercial aspect to it. So they will sell it, but the impact that they would have
Mahavir, can you all hear? Sorry. I think we lost his audio and video.
So till he rejoins, we can probably go ahead and then he can rejoin the conversation. So moving on, we have Vigyan Ashram, Dr. Yogesh Kulkarni from Vigyan Ashram. Thank you for joining. He's engaged in development of technology solutions, training rural youth. He's credited with scaling up for pre-vocational programs, introduction to basic technology in 134 plus schools in 4 states of India. And Vigyan Ashram has been the essence of ethics and core values of Indian Fab Lab network. Like, you know, they're like Captain America in Marvel MCU series to have trying to have a collective impact. And
right. Yeah. Thank you, Nishtha and Lorela, for like inviting me over here. Like Vaibhav was talking about Maker Asylum, which is located in Mumbai, which is like around 15 million population. Chandigarh is also basically like a metro city. And whereas like my Fab Lab is located with maybe around 5,000 population in a small village. So we are away from the city. And in a sense, it was advantage for us because even during the lockdown, we had around 35 students, including the Fab Academy students. They are locked down in the campus. So they are like, and our Fab Lab and our residents, they are together. So we were actually like practically working together like throughout the lockdown period. And on our campus, like we make almost anything. So we have poultry, we have goat farming, we have cows, we have poly houses. So we have all the activities we were doing basically during this lockdown period. And we were reading about these European Fab Labs, various maker groups, how they are fighting this COVID crisis. And so we also wanted to contribute. We wanted to do something. And we realized like the hospitals and the frontline workers around our village, they don't have these equipments. But the problem was the material, the raw material. We don't have any shops in Pabal, so we can't bring the material. The nearest city, Pune, is 70 kilometers from Pabal. So then we, there was like one solution we got. There is only one vehicle which was going from Pabal to Pune and coming back. It is the paper taxi, the newspaper taxi, which goes during the midnight, collect the newspaper from the city and bring back to the village. And then we started transporting the material and sending our the face shields and whatever we make to other places by using this newspaper services. Initially, we did not get any material. So basically, we started asking various Fab Labs whether they can help us, the different maker groups. So first of all, we talked to the NCL Venture Center in Pune, like whether they can give us some material. Of course, they help us initially, but they also had a limitation. Especially for the OHP sheets, like we don't have the OHP sheets. Then I called the Pune University. We have a university in Pune. It's a big university. And I asked them whether they have the OHP sheets in their godown, in the stores. And the vice chancellor of the university happily gave me like around 1,000 of the face shields. And we started working on. Then we don't have the acrylic sheets and the foam sheets in Pune. But the Fab Lab in Nagpur, which is 800 kilometers from Pabal, they got the supplier. And he said, okay, I will be able to ship the material from Nagpur, which is 800 kilometers from Pabal, and supply it to me. The only issue was the permission of transporting during the lockdown. And fortunately, like everybody helped us, and we could ship the material from Nagpur all the way to my village, and we made it. The important thing I want to tell, because like how we leverage this network, from IIT Indian Institute of Technology, I got a phone call, and they said somebody want to make a aerosol box for the hospital, and can Vigyan Ashram cut it, can make it. I said yes. Can you? We will able to do it, and we can ship it. Tell me the address. I was under impression like they will tell me the address near Pune, but it was in Hyderabad, which is again 1,000 kilometers from my place. So I think I connected them to a Fab Lab, the Makers Group, T-Works in Hyderabad, and these people made the aerosol boxes and give it supplied to the hospital. After a few days, I got a call from a hospital in Pune, the COVID hospital, and saying they got a reference from Hyderabad saying these boxes can be supplied by you from Power Village. So during this COVID period, we are just feeling like, okay, we are a very close community. As Vaibhav was mentioning, like we are completely dependent on him for his advice and how to make the face sheet. But we got this kind of supports from the various labs, the Nagpur, Pune, Hyderabad, all these things. More than this, basically, apart from these aerosol boxes and face shields, we were on the campus, 35 students, and we started doing whatever we can do with the raw material available with us. So we made disinfection chambers, we made UV chambers, UV disinfection boxes, hand washing units, and we started supplying it to them. We made a do-it-yourself videos in our Marathi language, local language, like how to make a face mask, and started like recruiting them through social media. We also made various posters, especially for the electrician, plumbers, vegetable vendors, cowman, dairyman, what kind of care they should take, because they all were working. So we just made a list of all these technicians and designed, basically published a guidelines, the care they should take during this pandemic. Only one thing we could not do, basically, like my team was very enthusiastic to take up the project on making the ventilators. But then we did a lot of discussion, and we thought this is beyond our capability, considering the resources we have and our location. So we said, okay, let's not go into it. So other than that, we just try to do whatever we get the resources and whatever we can contribute, we did it. And in fact, the real power, like even like in Power Village, we were able to supply the face shield to the hospitals in Pune city, and I think it shows the power of the decentralized manufacturing, even in the small place in my village. Yeah, thank you, Nishtha. Over to you, Nishtha.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Yogesh. And I'm sure when we get to the second part of the discussion, we'll be discussing about all new issues and all new topics we have from each one of you. This is just like a quick intro of what the labs are doing presently. Now we have Dr. Nadeem Ahmed, Technical Officer from Fab Lab Kerala. He has been working with Fab Labs and Makerspaces for the past 5 years. He's here with Yadu from Fab Lab Kerala. I hope he could join. Kerala government has been proactive in taking effective steps against this pandemic. And we would love to hear the experiences you had with the startups and the team regarding the same. Over to you.
Thank you, Nishtha and team. I'm happy to surround with these wonderful people around in the screen. Okay, so to talk about, I'm not representing a lab. I'm representing a network, Fab Lab Kerala network. So we have to talk about a network. We have a one super Fab Lab. and 2 Fab Labs and 22 mini Fab Labs. So I can talk much about like how we leveraged this network and put into use to make something out of like, so it's a combination. We have used our like infrastructure and ecosystem to make best out of it. So to talk about it, like, since we have like 3 levels of labs, so we operated in 3 levels as well. So in Super Fab Lab, and Mini Fab Lab. So in Super Fab Lab, what we have done is like we have anchored a bunch of experts. So in terms of there were doctors, suppliers, and like researchers, and as we know, like the logistics was like stuck, and it was a big kind of an issue. So since we are a government nodal agency, and like Vaibhav mentioned, one of the key restriction was like on certification and on that regularity stuff. So we could much act upon like stuff like that, since we are a government entity, and we could do something on that. So in Super Fab Lab, we have like what we have done is like since we have anchored all bunch of like it was a mix of people. Like there were tech people, there were non-tech people, there were medical experts, there were like whole kind of people in the lab. And as like I know, like whoever in this will be like we slept on the floor as well. Like we were on the Fab Lab for 24/7, and luckily we were lucky enough to recognize as a like a essential entity during the COVID-19 response, and it was appreciated by the Chief Minister of Kerala, and relevant support was given to as well. And for the logistics, how we traveled is like we are allotted with government designated like vehicles in order to transfer in emergency situations as well. So that was like a more of a privilege for being a government nodal agency in this situation. So rather than focusing on a single project, what we have done is like we have made a core where people, so take the example of the respiratory apparatus we have done. So we have done the research from the day one. A bunch of doctors from IMA, like IMA Indian Medical Association, and many clusters of doctors were here with us, and we were discussing with them, and the hard part was done here. And since it is like accessibility was an issue, like so we have done that part, and we have like exposed the whole content with design, documentation, our efforts, everything to the cluster of people who is interested to take up this project. So there were startups, multiple startups on this. So there were startups which are spin-off from this cluster, and we support them in terms of fund, and in terms of like resources, in terms of, since we have a bunch of suppliers already signed with us. So that's what we have done. What we have done is like we have made an ecosystem to grow. Like there were startups, like I'm proud to say that like there is one startup who is spin-off from this particular respiratory apparatus, and now they are like talking with UN to supply this in other this region of of the world. Okay, so there were startups who was working on roti making. Okay, where they have done 8 years of research, and that 8 years of research is transferred or transformed into into the making of respiratory apparatus. So it's more like a transformation from what they are doing, like adapting to the new normal, we say, like as experts says there. So so that's what we have done. Like there are many startups we have evolved, and on that occasion, like there are new budding startups as well. So what we have done, they are new to the ecosystem, right? And they don't know what to look after, and like the legal side of it, and the NDA, things like that, IP, and all lot of stuff. So we were like a supporting agency for them, where we are doing the part which they are not aware of. or we have a team which like a different bunch of team. We have someone who is looking after legal, and we were much able to do the manufacturing part. We had like set of list of like manufacturers listed around, and also since we are a government agency, I'm repeatedly saying that. So since we have a bunch of manufacturing facilities, right? So we have opened that manufacturing facilities for especially for COVID responses, and they were helping us like as everyone know, like it was a collective and a distributed like effort, and so that's more of a research kind of, or like a supportive kind of thing is done in Super Fab Lab. And in Fab Labs, what you have done is like there were people who is like already working on similar stuff like prior to COVID itself. So they just wanted to make use of the machines and everything, right? So we have, as we all know, logistics was like pretty stagnant. So we helped them to make them fabricate. So one example we can take with that is like a KSDP, Kerala State Drug and Pharmaceutical Department. So what they have, there were a machine that makes tablets, which can produce around 20 lakh tablets per 7 hours, okay? And that got faulty. And we have, our team has gone, we have replicated the part, and with our multi-jet fusion 3D printer, we were able to replicate the machine part, and that is we were able to put them back to life. So it's interdisciplinary, and like what we can say we were helping irrespective of the departments and whatever it is. And the next part coming is like mini Fab Lab. So what mini Fab Labs do, we have 22 mini Fab Labs in different, which is geographically distributed. So it helps for a vast reach, and as Vaibhav said, it helps us for the distributed manufacturing. So in mini Fab Labs, we were able to make face shields, and it was distributed with the local like panchayats, or which is the local body here. So in quite a way, it is like a more of a accessibility. So much like a broad kind of audience was accessible to the lab, and they were able to do their project. And wherever they restrict, they were connected to the Fab Lab and the Super Fab Lab. So it's like a loop, and we have like we have set the ecosystem. So if one is constraining with something, then they will go to the next level and next level. And we hopefully, thankfully, we were successfully to act upon this COVID-19, and so we are happy that we have a bunch of achievements as well. So one other thing we have done, for example, is we have made the swabs. So there are two types of swabs, right? Swabs is what we use for taking the samples for COVID-19 test. So we have used the biocompatible resins and the powder-based 3D printers and to make swabs, and it is distributed as well. And so we in PPE, so face shields, face mask, since we have Super Fab Lab capabilities, so the format, so we were able to produce in the mass mass production level. So per day, so around 10,000 to 10,000 masks were produced and 95 quality. So that's what we have done. So what we in short, what we have done is we have made the an ecosystem. We have leveraged our ecosystem and infrastructure, and we help the startups around it and who is into COVID-19 response to disrupt their technology to reality. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nadeem, and we'll get back to Mr. Maha now because we have to move on to the second part of the discussion. Mr. Mahavi, can you please continue? And then we will have Dr. Hasnat next. Thank you.
Thanks, Nishtha. Sorry for the dropout. Okay, so initially we got permission for the curfew pass. I mean, we were allowed to move around it was surprising that Fab Labs were not officially, but actually given curfew passes and considered essential service, which is a big thing at the network for us. That at least now that name gets taken seriously of the work that has been done. So yeah, so coming to Fab Lab Mohali, which Nishtha is taking care of. So what she's doing right now is she's moved away from the open source culture where we release the designs and anyone can copy and then make and fabricate, to something which we feel works out even better for the economy, which is that we are concentrating on a core principle of our MDG goal, which is equity. So there is equality and equity, in which in equity we kind of let the poor people be given more preference than everyone else. So Fab Lab Mohali and Fab Lab Chandigarh do not take any volunteers. We do not take any makers. What we're doing right now is getting involved with all the self-help groups who lost their jobs. So all the women who are in self-help groups but aren't producing anything anymore. Or we are like having auto rickshaw wallahs or three-wheeler people who lost their jobs because nobody's going to get into a taxi nowadays. So all of them are free and they don't have jobs. So these are the people who are walking into Fab Lab Mohali right now. And they're the ones who are actually producing super amazing face shields. And the good thing about it is, I mean, I wouldn't have shown the product, but it's something which is made with so much love that even hospitals are buying them without tendering. So this is keeping in mind everything and probably all our design experiences. So we make around 800 per day from one auto guy. So one auto rickshaw wala person makes 800 of these per day. And we have around 6 who we keep alternating between 2 or 3 days. Now, what this does is it's compatible, first of all, with the people in cultures, the ones who wear turbans. All they have to do is just take this up, in this kind of a configuration, and then wear this over the turban like this, and that's it. The coolest part is it goes up, and then the best thing about it is that there's a visor to it. So I can if I go out in the sun, I can actually bring this down, and then I can move it. Ladies can just simply bring this down and then wear straightforward from the top end like this, something like this. And Nishtha can actually explain. If Nishtha, you have a face shield, can you just wear it with an ear saver? So we mixed 2 concepts of that, of the ear saver and the swivel. So what Nishtha is going to do right now, she's going to wear the face shield, but her ear will not pain because it'll have an inbuilt ear saver in the face shield itself. So as you can see from her ear, she can actually just mount it on directly onto the face shield, and that's it. So this kind of a face shield which goes up and down, not in the market. It has a sun visor for people out there in the sun. You can eat, drink, has ear savers. It's made by people who lost their jobs. So that's the equity versus equality kind of thing we're having, and that's the reason we haven't open sourced it yet, because the last thing we want is bigger corporates to take a slight possibility of someone who's poor and who's lost his job to earn something out of it. So yeah, that's one way of doing it. We've done 79,000 of these shields, out of which 31K donated. Remaining have been given out to hospitals who've taken in by pooling in their own money. So I mean, they love it so much that they even went past the tendering system to procure them directly. And that speaks volume of how important design could be to solve certain things. Now, as far as Fab Lab Chandigarh is concerned, we are not taking projects, like I told initially, which we can't trust to go out in the market. So what we did was we started prototyping for medical devices, device manufacturers who have the necessary approvals, who just have to modify, can get the costs down. And what we're doing is we're doing casings for them, which we feel could have an impact, because eventually they're the ones which do come in the market. Then the next thing we're doing is, so we're not taking projects. The limitation of a lab is that we don't have metal fabrication machinery. So we can't do metal bending, we can't do pipe bending, those kind of things. So we have kind of missed out on an opportunity to develop, prototype, take out in the market stuff which requires metal welding and cutting in angles and then bending them things. So those things are some things which are very impactful. There are quite a few projects which we could have worked on, but we missed out on that. It's one of the challenges we're seeing right now. The way we went about the face shields, and even quite a few of the projects that we're doing for the medical device manufacturers, is that we first identify the distributors and manufacturers locally, and we get the numbers in. So, for example, in case of Chandigarh, we located a distributor which had 37,000 cellulose acetate sheets and about, I think, 16 PETG sheets within. So we knew exactly a number. By going to the distributor, you know exactly how much impact can you have. So we know, okay, there's 60,000 possible sheets that we can make, and that's when we procure. So there's a slightly upfront cost to it, but at least it ensures that when the cases are rising, you know, you're not bound by having to risk your lives again and again. You can actually be in a closed environment, all the necessary materials, and keep on making the same. So one of the challenges to the same thing is that the very people we were buying this from and who we had assured that there will be more people coming in, more device manufacturers coming in, actually ended up raising their prices. So this is what we're seeing right now a lot. A lot of manufacturers have started raising their prices. And in fact, I mean, it's very common if right now in India, you call any cellulose acetate manufacturer or PET manufacturer, the first thing they ask you is, face shield bana rahe ho? Are you making face shields? You know, because now everyone knows that any call that we receive is for a face shield. And we have to keep telling them, no, it's not for a face shield, for something else, because we're doing paper hoods, we're doing, I mean, the very organic and ergonomically, anthropometrically oriented devices that is just too much pain to be explained to the manufacturer. So we just say, yes, we're making face shields. So they give us support, and the rates are usually higher than what we got 3 months back. So yeah, that's how we've done it, equity versus equality. And yeah, as far as design is concerned, like for this and a few more, we are actually giving it out to people who can assure us that they will pay a certain amount to the ones who are making it. So if they're willing to get the unemployed to make these shields, the design is all this. It's not open source. We are giving it out to everyone, but anyone who can promise us or give it an affidavit that they'll be willing to have the unemployed make these and pay them a certain amount that we're telling them to, they can use it and sell it or whatever that gets about.
Okay, thank you so much, Mahavir. And moving on, we will have Dr. Hasnat Solaiman, founder of Fab Lab SCU, Dhaka, Bangladesh. He holds an experience in establishing digital fabrication labs, biosafety, and PCR labs for COVID-19 patients. Also, Fab Lab in Bangladesh is an initiative through World Bank's Higher Education Quality Enhancement Project to improve their research. Over to you, Dr. Hasnat. You have like 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Nishtha. And maybe Dr. Yogesh Kulkarni is also here, so he's not visible though. So the first thing I would like to share that Dr. Yogesh, he visited my lab, and he is the only person that I connected well, and I got the maximum suggestions and everything from him. And he's my guide and supervisor, whatever you say. And according to his guidance, I got my Fab Lab, and I would like to say this is the only active Fab Lab in Bangladesh. And in 2015, we started our fabrication. So that was our manual fabrication in a small room of 10 feet by 10 feet room. And then after 2 years of struggling of 2 years, in 2017, the World Bank group basically floated an advertisement for the public and private universities for making some innovations lab and fabrication, such kind of thing. And that time, some person visited India, and they also visited AKGEC, Fab Lab AKGEC, and they came to know about vegan ashram. They came to know about the Ladakh Fab Labs, and they contacted with us, and they requested us to apply for that. So among the 35 public universities, they applied, and we got selection. So now we have almost 8 Fab Labs, and 8 Fab Labs are totally funded by the World Bank Group. And we are the only one active Fab Lab because we have one Fab Academy graduate. And again, I would like to mention the name of Vegan Ashram, because my graduate went to the Vegan Ashram, and he stayed there for 6 months, and he studied, and he got the certificate in 2 years back. And he came back in 2018, in December, he came back. We finished our establishing digital fabrication laboratory in 2018. And after that, for the last 2 years, we are having a lot of challenges. And then when the COVID came up, then we suddenly got a connection from BRAC Social Innovation Lab. This is the biggest NGO in Bangladesh. You know, there is an international NGO in Bangladesh, BRAC, and they have one BRAC Social Innovation Lab. They contacted with me, they came up, they visited our lab, and they ordered face shield initially for 1,000 pieces. And we started our work. And before that, I would like to share one thing, that how the BRAC Social Innovation Lab basically came to know about Fab Lab SU. We had one international organization, the name is Feel Ready. It is an UK-based company, and they are working in the Rohingya refugees areas. And with them, we started an MOU, signed an MOU with them in 2 years back in 2018. They came up, the persons came up, they visited our lab, they saw our capabilities, and then we signed our MOU. And we started making toy soap. Initially, the toy soap for the children of the Rohingya people to make washing their hands. That means we are making toys, small toys through 3D printers, and then we are making the molds for soap, and then keeping the toys inside the soap, visible, transparent soap. That means the children will be more encouraged to wash their hands. But at the time, there was no COVID. But the situation was like this, that the COVID people always, the more sanitizing suggestion that came up from WHO, that washing hands. Then the issue came up again to supply and making these to the Cox's Bazar through World Vision. So we are basically connected a few national and international organizations, and they're basically suggesting. And the most important part, our all designs of all products, including face shield, goggles, are being verified by the Field Ready UK. And Field Ready is basically partnered with the Fab Foundation, Boston, and then Sherry, she also knows about us because through the Field Ready thing. And Field Ready, basically they carry their printer to the field, and they make any kind of connectors and any kind of product, make the product in the field and immediately supply to the concerned people. And in addition, when the face shield come up, we made almost 5 types of face shield with 3D printers. We got some problems with the Prusa design. We initially we made one Prusa design face shield, and the cost was higher. So it was almost 400 taka from our side per pieces. And then we thought the prices should be reduced. Then we trialed another 3 types of gadgets that they had gear part, and everyone know that the frontal sheet is basically plexi sheets or the WSP sheets. So our sheet is like, and lastly, after doing almost 15-20 days trials and everything, then we came to prepare these with the CNC router. It basically reduces time, and it reduces the cost drastically. Now we can make this face shield with a cost of 150 taka, and it is very lucrative, long lasting, very nice. And the packaging you are saying, it is 100% sanitized and biosafety we are following, and that biosafety and sanitizing thing are being prescribed also by Field Ready UK, because they are also suggesting those things, and we have a total safety guidelines for our Fab Lab. And if you want, I also can share these guidelines to everyone, because it is an international guidelines for all maker spaces and Fab Labs that the Field Ready is basically suggested as this. And in addition, we are making these goggles also. It is a molded, casting molded goggles. And though I am a public university faculty member, so we cannot directly sell product by our university. Now, recently, in 15 days, basically, I got a letter from the university authority that we can also sell by making a cooperative thing. And these goggles is basically a molded casting thing, 2-part. This is also the sheet one, and here is the softed part. There is a band. You can understand the total thing. And this is basically supplied and made by one of our partners that is involved with BDTech. So we are mostly working with a partnership system that we basically collect and work with a partner that they will support financially, and we will make the designs and they can sell it. And initially, what we do when we sign the MU, basically we just keep a margin from them. So and also we bind some of the raw material from ourselves, for ourselves, when we supplied those kind of things to the community people. And in addition, we have created a paddle dispensers. These are total medical grade SS paddle dispenser, and almost supply 50 paddle dispensers to different private and public hospitals, organizations, food producing companies. And we also made some social distancing shield. That means you can understand there is a acrylic made shield that the person, any school, you can use that shield to separate each and every students in the office. You can separate those person from one to another. And we are also making some disinfectant chamber, and we have made also a UV disinfection boxes. And the thing now we are doing that we are planned and designed a PCR machine, and we are trying, hopefully we will make it very soon. And the most importantly, how we are working in these situations. 3 of my persons is living inside my Fab Lab. They are staying here, they are cooking, they are staying inside my lab, and they are doing their work, staying there. And how I basically supplying to the community people. I have 2 kind of certificates. From one is from Ministry of Health. So they basically gave us a certificate that we can deliver our product that is directly related to the COVID thing. And secondly, we have another certificate from the police headquarters that if we go and do some works in the road, that if they stop us, then we can show that this is the certificate we got from your side. So those certificates are being produced and generated through BRAC Social Innovation Lab, because this is the biggest NGO in Bangladesh, and they basically made in our name that these 2 persons can do or make some products that is directly related to the COVID thing. So from my side, this is a brief introduction about my Fab Lab. Thank you, Nishtha.
Thank you. We are sorry to we are short of time. We want every participant to be able to speak. So we have next Dr. Pradeep Kurulkar, working as a scientist in DRDO for more than 30 years. DRDO is a defense research organization of India, which is handling major part of the COVID's efforts towards the government. With his active involvement and multiple national awards in weapon systems and technology development, his tenure has many as 15 different launchers on his credit. He's presently heading strategic system group specialized for missile systems. So we are grateful to have you here on board, and over to you, Dr. Pradeep.
Thank you, Nishtha. It was wonderful to listen all the efforts done by various Fab Labs and the enthusiasm with which people are trying to resolve and give the solutions. It's really wonderful to see. We had a different situation at DRDO. We had a plethora of products which were there already in service with tri-services, that is Army, Navy, Air Force. The thought process was how to convert or reconvert them quickly to use to fight the situation of COVID-19. It's very difficult to compress everything in 6 minutes. I can only say those who are really interested can visit drdo.gov.in. We have a special portal called as Technologies Fighting COVID-19. It has more than 50 products and technologies which are free, wherein there is some contribution by DRDO in terms of technology transfer, for which DRDO is not charging any fees. It is free, let me tell. In fact, DRDO is advertising on this portal if an industry has participated in development or reconversion, modification of the existing product for fighting COVID, the name of the person from the lab the lab which has taken the initiative, the industry, its POC, point of contact, and their mail and telephones along with the product details are shared. It is open for use by anybody. What we have observed that Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, they are taking the maximum benefit of it. Nevertheless, there are large social groups and NGOs who have also started taking up advantage of this. I would only talk about 3 particular products which were totally different in their original development and how DRDO got them converted. Long back, we had delivered almost 100 numbers of vehicles. They are the water cannons, mainly being used by MHA, Minister of Home Affairs, and various police forces in different states for riot control. It has a jet which can be moved into azimuth and elevation over the top of an vehicle. The vehicle is like a fire tender, which has got a huge storage of water. And with the pressure of the jet, you are able to control the riot by pushing them behind. One of our technical officer came up with an innovation. He removed that jet, which is there on the top of the vehicle, made an adapter with a T. This T, the horizontal part of the T, had 6 new nozzles, which can create mist rather than the water jet. These mist creating nozzles were also used by DRDO in some other project as a water cooling tower. Instead of having the open cooler tower, these jets were used for creating very small water particles which would dissipate heat by using the minimum water. Now, the person thought of that, yes, this can be used for creating a mist, and the same vehicle can be used for throwing the mist around the infected area for sanitization. Out of the 80 vehicles, we could quickly identify the location of 20 odd vehicles. And the one vehicle which was there with my establishment as a repository, we first tried out this modification on that in just 3 days, 3 to I think 3.5 a day. 4th day entirely went into its trial, and immediately the parts were made and individual teams went with the police commissioner's permission and MHA's permission to the location of these Vajras, which were distributed to various state organizations, where especially places like Mumbai, Delhi, where they were mostly needed. And these modifications were done in situ on the site. And the same vehicle was then readied for spraying the mist of the sodium hypochlorite or equivalent material for sanitization. So this was one existing product got converted within a very shortest span for use or to fight the COVID-19. The another product which was CBRNE mobile shelter. This was basically CBRNE is chemical bionuclear radiation kind of a scenario, which is a war scenario. However, it calls for the isolation from the external atmosphere to a greatest level by isolating the radioactive particles. Now, these shelters, mobile shelters, are already handed over to Army. They are at different locations. For sake of their security, I'll not be able to disclose the locations, but some of them they were made available by Army quickly to my establishment, and we converted them into an mobile isolation centers and test labs. One of our lab in Delhi, in Mass, who is mainly involved into biological and life sciences part. So they were quick enough to augment the equipment, give us the details, and the establishment at my level, we were ready to quickly analyze how we can fit that lab into this vehicle. And some of these vehicles which were offered by Army were reconverted and immediately within a week span were ready to dispatch. In cities, we are very fortunate that these test labs are available. But in the remote areas, even today, the testing for testing, the doctors have to assort to a greater distance for sending the samples. So wherever it was possible, where the nearby pandemic are hotspots, there in the rural area or the remote area, these vehicles are now used as in mobile labs. The third one came initially, immediately by end of March, that the medical fraternity would require PPE. And PPE manufacturing facilities at that time, I'm talking this end of March 2020 or early part of the April, were not there. The biggest stumbling block which was seen at that time, that the machine required for manufacturing PPE, they were either imported from Taiwan or Hong Kong or South Korea. Import at that time was not feasible. We located one earlier version of a machine at Igatpuri, and within 2.5 weeks, 2 industries in Pune helped us in reconfiguring that with the indigenous material. The PPE was manufactured, it was tested locally, then it was sent to INMAS, our life sciences lab and nuclear medicine hospital at Delhi. They have tested it and it is now confirmed. So this machine also is available for manufacturing those who are interested in PPE. Even the source of the cloth, woven cloth, which can be used along with this machine, is declared on the DRDO sort. I think the others also have to take their time to contribute. From my side, this is all I would like to say. Thank you, Nishtha.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pradeep. I just have one question, which like all of us were coming across the challenge, that is regulations and permissions. So we would like you to guide us, how can we take our products and commercialize them in terms of certifications? How do DRDO handles that?
There are 2 major labs of DRDO, INMAS and DIPAS, located at Delhi. They are the ones who are capable of monitoring and regulating the certification regarding neutralization of the virus. The other labs who are instrumental in development and verifying the engineering wise, there are a couple of labs in Bangalore, a couple of labs here in Pune, and a couple even in Hyderabad. What DRDO has done, there's a committee under the chairmanship of DG Life Sciences, Dr. A.K. Singh, and then the other expert, Dr. U.K. Singh, who is also an electronics expert. They have subcommittees. For example, the product being developed at Pune, the Pune local area, I am also chairman of one local committee. So we go, we visit, we do observe the manufacturing process, help them if they need some resources to develop it. And when the product is made, it is transported or it is sent to INMAS, then the local lab remains an interface between the manufacturer and the INMAS to get its certification. If any changes are required, then INMAS conveys it to the local lab, which are conveyed either on the VC to the local industry, and we take them in confidence in making changes. And there is a handholding right now going on by the local labs to see that the product is developed till it gets passed through the INMAS. It went through very nicely for UV boxes, UV. In fact, one of our other product, which I would like to mention, that we had manufactured one robotic platform, basically for surveillance, which otherwise carries some radars and some acoustic sensors and lidars and etc. Removing all that, we had put now a UV light, which can be used like a toy by a remote, which moves through the corridors of hospitals, and the emptied. You have emptied, a patient is discharged, and you want to sanitize that room. This robo can go along with its UV source and can sanitize it. It's faster than spraying the sanitizer. It's pretty faster. I mean, the regular usage, like your pen, wallet, mobile, keychains, we have made a box wherein you can put this. There's a 360-degree cover by means of reflectors and sources, and within a minute there's a specific density the millijoules per second per centimeter square. If one can achieve that energy density, it is confirmed that the virus is killed. That is being seen by the labs at the Delhi. They give the certification, but as we know that what density is required, the engineering part of that is being handled by various laboratories in Bangalore, Hyderabad, as well as in Pune. My contact is with you. If anyone particularly has got any query, you can surely share my cell number, and I would like to, even the email, I would surely like to help them whatever way we can.
Thank you. There's a very interesting process how DRDO prototypes and commercializes them with an ecosystem. And we as Fab Labs would love to be probably like a part of the ecosystem, or, you know, to understand how DRDO works and what is the process of prototyping and how they get in touch with the industries and everything. Summing that up. So thank you so much.
I just would like to add a last line without. I heard the kind of work which is going on prototype development at Fab Labs. I can tell you that many of the DRDO labs would be happy to be in touch with the Fab Labs for their prototype development. We'll talk on that separately. Thank you very much, Nishtha.
Do that. I'll be sharing that details with all the Fab Labs. Thank you so much, and thank you for your. Moving on, we have next we have Mr. Hemant Gadgil, Executive Director, La Foundation Resolve Systems, India. His experience is around academia collaborations, R&D, CSR programs to promote research and innovation. We also have Mr. Suhas from 3D Experience Lab of Resolve Systems, India, also responsible for managing startups and innovators. He has a professional experience in AR, VR, and MR technologies. We would love to hear about the projects you take up for CSR and how do you select the startups and the projects for CSR. Over to you, Mr. Hemant.
Okay, thank you, Nishtha, and all of us here in the panel discussion. It was a nice interaction, and I'm very happy to see a lot of actions are happening to address the current situation, and the distributed work which has been happening through the Fab network is certainly very useful. Now, as far as Dassault Systems is concerned, we have two units. One is La Foundation, which is a foundation Dassault System has set up. And the focus of our foundation is to facilitate academia transformation and also encourage research happening in Indian academia. And through that, we are supporting many interesting projects at different universities and colleges, specifically in the research area. From the organization, what we have done specifically in the COVID-19 situation, being a technology company, we are today supporting a few startups, and that support is provided by 3D Experience Lab, which my colleague Suhas leads, and he will explain a little bit more on that. And now in the current situation, we are supporting the startups who are developing very specialized devices which could be useful in the COVID-19 combating situation. Probably the life-saving devices, probably something which will make the PPE suit wearer, the frontline COVID-19 warriors, their life easier. So two products which I know are being supported through startup. One is a startup which has developed ventilators which could be useful for the COVID-19 patients. And there's another device which is under development right now through a startup, which will help the COVID-19 warriors who are wearing the PPE suit the entire day. Their life is very tough in that situation. So how this PPE suit can be well ventilated, and which will give certain kind of a relief to the person who is wearing it. So I will request Suhas to talk about it a little later. But before I switch over, I echo the same concerns which most of the panel members here echoed or has brought forward. While developing certain things as a technology or as a product was probably much easier, I would say, while it is complex and it needs certain application of thought process and the technology. But we felt that developing this was much easier, and the most difficult phase we realized and we never anticipated is really getting the approvals from the right agencies. And the biggest surprise came to me, and I'm sure Vaibhav and Yogesh Kulkarni, everybody has said this, that for many of these products, there is no defined approval process with the approving agencies. Now, for the ventilators, we developed the ventilator in 3D Experience Lab within, say, 10 days. But now, last 4 weeks, we are struggling to know who will approve it. And we are running from pillar to pillar and showing it to various hospitals and doctors. They say, yes, it could be useful, but I am not the person who can approve it. And it's been ready. We decided we will fund these ventilators, offer these ventilators for free to the hospitals who are treating the COVID-19 patients, so that it could be useful to them. But unfortunately, today not a single ventilator could be put in use because of the not having a approval and certification process. Probably it was good for me to join this discussion, and I don't know, but I know Pradeep Kurulkar, but I never thought if DRDO has any such approval process under them, we can share the ventilator to you and get. So Pradeep sir, I will contact you separately. So this is one area I think the entire Fab Lab community should take up, because it's not probably a challenge within India. It could be a challenge everywhere globally. And having those approval processes well defined or quickly defined, because it's a very challenging situation, and the speed of response is very important in the given situation. So how this can be done, because people will come forward with the technology, people will come forward all the volunteering activities, people will come forward with the funding and support and everything. But the real thing is, since it is going to work on the patient, nobody wants to take that risk. So we also cannot just push that, okay, we are confident of our design, but you now put it on the patient and offer to them. So this is one catch-19 situation. If Fab Foundation Network can get into it and help, that would be useful. One input from my side to all the Fab Labs here, and including your other networks. We are working very closely with the Indian academia. Today we are connected with almost 300 engineering colleges in India. And we would like to really encourage certain products or certain projects which are in the COVID-19 related development. If the certain Fab Lab can define a project which could be done by the students, we have a large number of student workforce available through our network, and there are many colleges who are willing to take up such projects and help the concerned Fab Labs or concerned industries. So it will help you also to have a trained engineering manpower who can then contribute into this novel cause. So that is one appeal I would like to make in this forum. So maybe I will request Suhas to elaborate little more about the work we did for this ventilator and other device in the context of COVID-19 situation through our 3D Experience Lab.
Yes, please, Mr. Suhas.
Suhas, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah. So, hello, everyone. Nice to talking with you and seeing all creative things what the Fab Lab is doing. Dassault System has this called accelerator program called 3D Experience Lab. It's a global initiative where all the startups, we support them, which are really top of the notch, and we support them with mentorship, with our technology and everything. Now in current situation, this is where the pandemic is on the edge, where we found that we need to do something to the society. So we built a platform as a community where we bought all the Fab Labs, like 300 volunteers on the system itself, providing tools to them with network, with technology and everything. And with this, within 10 days, the startup called Inali has built this ventilator. The ventilator means ventilator is a complex device actually. To make it simplify and to make it open, the ventilator is open source for everyone, who anyone can design. So it should be validated digitally. So we designed internally, simulated it, then validated it virtually, and then built a first prototype in 8 days. And it was mimicking actual ventilator, the pressures, the tidal volume, the everything. It was mimicking perfectly. So this is what they are done. Now we are waiting for the approvals and everything. And this is one part. Second is that there is students, they came up with an innovative idea with having a PPE suit with a ventilation, because when their doctors are working 24/7 in the PPE suit, they have skin rashes, irritation and everything, because it's a plastic, there is no air. So this innovative student, they are from first year engineering, they came up with this innovative idea. They build a ventilation for the PPE suit. They are testing. Every test is done virtually, and then physical prototype has been built and waiting. And then after that, we will publicize that, and we will open source all that content itself, so that anyone can work on that. About the open COVID community, it's 300 ideas we got globally on face masks, different face masks, ventilators, UV equipments. All of this are documented there. Have an idea. People can comment there. People can use that idea to build their product. This is what open COVID community is. And we had created a dashboard also, where we are monitoring every Fab Lab, every maker, so that any input from anywhere can be circulated throughout the world. This is like, it's not the India, it's a world, it's a pandemic. World is facing the challenge, and we need to support that. So everyone is working. So and also we are working remotely using our tools and everything. This is how we are supporting that. So thank you for this time.
Thank you so much, Suhaji, for joining us at the last moment. Moving forward, we can go ahead with the Q&A discussion. I would like to begin with one question for Dr. Yogesh from Vigyan Ashram. With the onset of heavy migration happening in India, it's not possible to not talk about Ashram's take on Fab Village. Like, that is something which came to my mind when I was planning how we can bring that concept in. Can this be an opportunity for developing rural areas with Fab Labs? Please give your view on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you, Nishtha. Yes, our cities are crowded, and it is really difficult to maintain social distancing in cities. And therefore, we are seeing lots of reverse migration happening towards the villages. And even many educated youth, they are returning back to their village. And here I see the opportunity. Like, our villages are self-sufficient in terms of water, agriculture, they grow food. They can become energy self-sufficient by harvesting renewable energy. And now, since we have the internet in the villages, we can do all the things that can be done online. And so imagine if now we have the Fab Lab or this distributed manufacturing facility in every village, then our villages will not remain dependent on the cities, even for the manufactured goods. And in that case, we will not need a mass production, but we can definitely, it's time to go for digital fabrication. And since many rural youth are coming back to the villages and they are started thinking about post-COVID situation, I think to create self-sufficient village is the idea that I think we should work on. What we did in Vigyan Ashram, basically, when this migration started happening, we just give a post on the social media asking for the youth who are coming back and those who want to stay back in their villages to contact us. And within a week, we got more than 400 responses. And now we are working on, basically, we have already started the online entrepreneurship development program for this rural youth. So I think there is an opportunity for us to go for the Fab Village. Like we have a Fab City concept, like a globally connected, but locally self-sufficient cities in the Europe, they are doing it. But I think now in India, we can go for a Fab Village. In fact, with the support of Fab Foundation, we started a pilot. So forget about a village, we said we will have a self-sufficient campus. So in a near Pabar village, there is a village called Mukhai. And we are trying to develop a self-sufficient campus. So I think it's now time to go for this self-sufficient village. And that is the opportunity I see. Yes, Nishtha.
Okay, so Nodila, would you like to go ahead?
No, we're going to open up to the discussion. Whoever wants to participate, if you have any questions, we're now opening a 30-minute discussion. You can ask panelists. Panelists can talk about themselves, if whatever they want to interact with. I think this is the time to empower the conversation of what's happening locally and how can we all get together and fight together as a community, as like yogesh was telling an amazing story of getting all these people and all this community are getting together. Like how is that showing like the resilience of the South Asia community, and how are we like getting empowered on basically a problem is causing a lot of people to join together to have a solution. So how are we going to move forward with that? Like, what's the situation currently in India? And are we on the first wave, or are we on the second wave, or what's going to happen if we have a third wave? Like all these situations rising up or questions that we have unsolved. This is the time to have that conversation. So I'll give you the word for whoever wants to start it.
Nishtha,
Hemant here, and I take the opportunity to put up my view. La Foundation is working very actively on a program where we want to make the entire industry academia ecosystem co-create the future. Okay, future for the students, future for the industries, and future for the academia. And today we have a very strong network of around 300 engineering colleges, having good facilities, good infrastructure, and very passionate professors and teachers and students. Now with the Fab network can be part of this entire program. And any developmental activities, if you feel, because many of the Fab labs would be having a lot of good library of ideas. And if you feel that you can harness the youth energy and the know-how which is available in the colleges, that can be given to them as a project, and these students would be very happy to be part of your design or manufacturing process. It helps them to learn certain things. It helps them to apply their knowledge for a meaningful work, and all the Fab Labs can also get benefited because as I think Mahavir Singh was mentioning, that his specific Fab Lab doesn't have the metalworking facilities. Now we can connect with any engineering college nearby who has these kind of workshops where you can get the things done, and the students in that college can work on the idea which you have in mind. So it would be a very useful solution for both of them. And such a powerful network and such a powerful ecosystem will not only be useful for the current situation, but it would be definitely help the students, industries, and everyone together to develop something which is very meaningful, which will be very useful to the society at large. And most of the Fab Labs, and I interact with Dr. Yogesh Kulkarni quite often. Finally, we are doing this for the benefit of the society. Finally, we want to make sure that our youths are meaningfully engaged. So we would like to offer this platform to entire Fab Lab network, where we can play the role of facilitator. I will share the program which we are doing to all the members here, and you can also communicate to your entire network, and we can probably do something very meaningful out of this.
Sure, you can share the link in the chat. We'll go ahead with Pradeep. We're trying to.
I just want to say immediately after what Dr. Yogesh Kulkarni and my friend Hemant has said, it's a wonderful collaborative effort between Vijnana Ashram and La Foundation to start a self-sufficient campus. I just would like to add in that these type of campuses can be cultivated as an incubation centers. And I think when we had a meeting in La Foundation lastly, I remember in the Hemant's campus, this was one of the idea. In fact, even at the DRDO headquarters, the chairman DRDO, Secretary DG R&D, Dr. Satish Reddy has also endorsed that DRDO, through its policy, will now start interacting with the startups more rather than the established companies for product development and concept. And this is the time when, if these startups, if they can be a part of this ecosystem where they have a self-sufficient campus, where they are supported with the strength of La Foundation, I think we really have a sky for the imagination. I would like to button into these campuses which are self-sufficient, not only for the technologies developed for defense, but today our focus would be to have a dual-edge technology, which in one side can be used for defense application, other side it can be used for the commercial aspect and for the societal part, especially when we talk of such campuses, self-sufficient campuses in the rural area. I would say it will be a blessing in disguise if these the manpower which is moved away from the cities and now willing to stay back at their own places, if we can give such a platforms, it would be the real wonderful part. Instead of congesting the cities, more and more talent can be incubated, can be given opportunity at an area maybe maximum 5 to 10 kilometers away from their residence. And it is not manageable today, but it is surely practicable concerning or looking into the present situation. Only I think one such a campus, as Dr. Kulkarni is mentioning, if we can show it as an established one or as a test sample, others would surely butt in and try to follow. I have very high regards regarding both of them, and would like to visit this campus, Dr. Yogesh. Thanks.
Yeah. Adding to Sir Pradeep sir, my feeling is that Fab Lab can play a more active role in fostering the culture of entrepreneurship within their fabric. If you look at the breakup of members in Fab Lab, today it's like large population is like hobbyistic or creative builder who wants to learn a particular machine or build something specific. If this lab starts working with accelerator programs or incubators locally, that will help out the fabrication and prototyping needing of hardwares of startups. This will help them to build the complete scenario of manufacturing, self-development of how the market works. This is one type of learning plus one type of giving to the society back. This is what I can add.
On that note, Nadim here from Fab Lab Kerala. So we also wanted to open up our facilities. So we have $1 million lab here. So we wanted to open up our facilities to the crowd actually. So I'm happy to I'm really excited to hear about the works and the collaborations that is possible. And also for sure I will contact each of you personally for that for sure, and taking up the journey together, fighting against this cause. So I just want to make sure we are also here to collaborate in terms of missionaries or whatever, whichever way possible. We are a government nodal agency, and also we have an incubator and accelerator associated with us. So whichever way possible, we are happy to collaborate with the team. Thank you.
So taking the conversation from a macro view to a micro view, I have a question for Nadeem. How do you after you select startups and you are able to prototype the products, how do you move ahead? What is the next step for the startups?
Okay. Okay, sure. So taking on that, as I said, so what we are trying to focus is we are anchoring bunch of resources, and we are helping them to set an ecosystem where we are making sure that they are in the right direction. Okay. So, and we are helping them to spin off from that. So there are, even though they spin off, they are bringing something to the table, as their experience and which is very valid points to us. So the whole team is not making a mistake twice. So that's the big part. Okay. So we have experienced, as I said, in legalities. So that's a one key thing. There are many startups coming up. So which are most of them are new to the scenario, or they are playing in a college, or they are not matured enough and they didn't went to the manufacturing process. So which is a different part, right? So we are helping them to set a channel. Okay. So we are making sure that they are on the right channel, and all these teams are connected, and I'm really happy that this is working out. So it's not we are supporting a single startup and we are making them reach. So this same startup which we are supporting, they are bringing something back and supporting the other startup to strive towards. So which is the best part of it. And in terms of certifications funds, so we have some CSR funds and TAP and everything. So we are coordinating all this stuff, which whatever that is necessary for a startup, that we are however we can, we are providing support to them. So as I said, as certification, so I find out that there is a voluntary certification called IC Med, though I'm also working on that. IC Med is a voluntary certification on biomedical instruments. Okay. So there are we are new to this, right? It's improvise, adapt, and overcome situation. So we are also pushing our max to deal with it. Yeah.
So I have. Yeah. Hello.
Mahavir, yes.
Can you hear me?
You're saying something?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, so I have a perspective to this. I mean, see, Fab Labs are more like research-based labs, and manufacturing was never our forte. I mean, distributed manufacturing is said for a reason, that we are not capable of manufacturing en masse. So that's where the growth of Fab Labs is getting restricted, and that's where we really need expert guidance, be it from the government, be it from corporates who are into the manufacturing lines to actually guide that, okay, once your prototypes are developed, what do you do next? I mean, there's a reason that if the salt has made a ventilator, it hasn't gone to the market. And that's majorly because it got developed. And now what's next is that gap which is not being answered by any one of us, because we are not the right people to answer it in the first place. So it's my sincere request, I mean, be it DRDO, be it anyone who we reach out to through these channels, that our network in India is amazing in terms of innovating and very fast, and an equal opportunist, giving everyone the equal opportunity of rising to the top. But the only barrier right now is that the manufacturers have their lines inside. I'll give you an example. So for government to procure from startups, they have something called a GEM, a GEM marketplace, right? That's where all the procurement comes in. Now, let me take an example of a shield itself. When you go to shield there, you find a shield which is as low as 4 rupees, right? And it is open foam. So they're using open foam and they're marketing it as reusable. Whereas reusable is only if you use closed foam in the face shield. Now, these things are not being monitored, and these things are understood by the ones who design, because obviously that there's a lot of research that goes into materiality and how to disinfect, and it goes for every single product. So the GM platform is not optimized, not at least for us. I mean, if you need a ventilator, we should not be able to say, okay, as per a tender, it has to be the cheapest ventilator. It doesn't work that way. A certain ventilator with certain quality of parts has to have a certain amount of money associated to it in order to get genuine products and make a valuable and a good quality ventilator. So when you get a tender and you open it to be opened by the lowest cost first, which means that the lowest cost bidder is going to actually end up getting the bid most probably. How does it work out? How we have a shield there, it doesn't use foam at all. It's the easiest way of disinfecting, but yet, we lose out on tenders and people have to end up buying through non-tenders. And that's an ecosystem again, which is not coherent to a Fab Lab network. So these things need to be addressed by someone from the government body, and Fab Labs need to be kind of guided what next, because certifications is not the forte of Fab Labs. We develop prototypes for startups, we guide them to develop prototypes, but what they do with their startup when they go out in the market and the certification and the invoicing is something that they handle. We don't. So, I mean, from that perspective, there's a lot of expertise and guidance needed to the last in order for all of us to grow and make more impact. So, if any views are there about that, I mean, it would be very helpful.
Mahavir, adding to that, so what, according to our experience here around, so what the interdisciplinary cluster that we have formed, irrespective of tech and non-tech, there were multiple people, and since we are we were able to since we are super Fab Lab, we have a bit of manufacturing capabilities as well, and also we have integrated other government bodies who have we have Kanjikode Industrial Park, so which is they are really into manufacturing stuff. They are industrially manufacturing body. Okay, so up to an extent we were able to make a cluster and of all the government bodies, including the manufacturing, as well as we were more on the research part, the Super Fab Lab team were on the research part, and this research were open to the startups, and startups were taking this up and they were adding and customizing in their way, and they are coming back to us and we are connecting them to this industrial park. So it was a loop actually. So up to an extent, I'm not saying 100%, up to an extent we were able to succeed in this by connecting interdisciplinary clusters of doctors, industrialists, even the suppliers. I want to tell you, we were working on ambu bags based ventilators, right? Respiratory apparatus. So we were even in touch with the vendors in India, wherever we can gather, we have list of updated list of inventory, what to get and what to get. So this interdisciplinary cluster will help according to our experience, I would say.
Yes, we have a couple of raised hands. I know the conversation is getting started. But yeah, we don't have much time, but I see a couple of people raising their hands. I have Raul, I have Dr. Sorry if I'm misreading this, but it's Dr. Srinivas or something like that. Sorry, Nishtha, I don't know.
Yes,
you can unmute and join the conversation. There, I saw a hi.
Yes, Dr. Srinivas.
Yeah, hi. This is
right?
Yes. Thank you. This is Dr. Srinivas Mithan from NK Orchid College of Engineering Technology, Sholapur. In continuation with Hemant sir's discussion, I have been to US once, and in the one of the conference, what I saw was there was a Fab Lab, and that Fab Lab was in the, you can say, four-wheeler or in that particular vehicle and a van. And that particular van was going to the different places and educating the people. So my question to all the panelists is, as there is a lot of workforce which is available as far as institutes are concerned, I'm belonging to engineering college, can these particular student can be utilized or motivated, or can be given you can say chance for these types to work in these fab labs somehow, either for training or so? This is my general question to all those who are in Fab Lab. Thank you.
So I think I'll take the liberty of answering, at least representing what we did. So we happen to, so what you're referring to is a movable Fab Lab or a mobile Fab Lab. And
yes.
I mean, there have been news articles in India where we have testing units deployed, not in hospitals, but in cars, so that, the cars can go out and reach out and test and everything. In lieu of that, I think you raised a very valid point. It is in fact a right time for all Fab Labs probably in India to kind of pitch for a mobile Fab Lab version of their respective cities. It's a great idea, and we've been working on, we've kind of open sourced a design which lets the mobile Fab Lab expand 5 times. And it's based on a more licensed version, but we were able to open source it by not exploiting any of those patents. So we do have a working version which does expand lab 5 times, and the appropriate kind of funding is required, because when we did the maths and then when we had started making it 3 years back, we touched I think 12 lakhs even before it started off. So there are costs associated to it. For a small mobile lab, nothing like it. But if you really need a good lab to be able to expand, for people to actually come in, or if not come in, to be able to do something concrete, to be able to, you'll have to jump to buses and trucks or some things which are being pulled. There's some kind of corporate, corporates have to step in either through CSR or to support the development of these projects. But yeah, it can have impact. And in fact, now is the right time for a specific reason that the president has allowed emergency things to come up. So most of the things do refer by the power designated by the president of India. You're allowed to do this if you're doing something in response to COVID. So before, they were not approvals. So you couldn't have taken a bus, modified it, and run it on the roads without taking the right approvals, and it would take a lot of time. But right now, under these acts, I mean, they said notices, we can actually pitch for mobile Fab Labs, licensed mobile Fab Labs, to be able to run on road and not just be stationary, which was earlier the case.
Yeah, thank you.
So we have one question from Rahul Gautam. Can you go ahead, please?
Yeah, am I audible?
We can hear you, yes.
Yeah, so I am Rahul. I'm instructor at AKGC Fab Lab, and parallelly I also have a startup. So I went from a background where I did this Fab Academy, and after that I started my own startup, and it was initially based on a product which was a GPS tracker. So the problem which I felt was, like, initially I did this Fab Academy only for making that product. So the problem which I felt was, like, I made that prototype, and I guess when I entered the market, there was this huge gap. Like, I had a lot of questions in my mind, like how I'm gonna handle the production, how I'm gonna handle the distribution, who will be my clients and everything. So I guess I would like to ask Nadeem sir, like how you are tackling this problem in your incubation center. Like you said, you are motivating and guiding the startups. So how you are tackling this problem?
Okay. So on that note, there is a 3 steps for every product to get on a market, right? So first will be the design phase, the second will be the prototyping phase, and the third will be the production stage. And the most time, the bulkiest time consuming part is the iteration part. So where the design is, you will have a 0th prototype, the first prototype, and the second prototype. So based on that, you will, it's like a cycle. You will go back to the design phase and you will make some tweaks and you go back to the second iteration. So it's like a cycle, right? So I will suggest you to take that bulkiest time consuming part in the Fab Lab, so that you can get into the market and go ahead with the production stage. And also meanwhile you have to while designing, you have to keep the design for manufacturing aspect of it. So we prototype it for multiple purpose, right? So is it for visualizing? It's a different one. And is it for really manufacturing and take your product to the go to the market plan? Then it's a whole lot of scenario. So you have to work on the design to manufacture aspect of it. And I will suggest you to to complete the bulkiest part of your product, which is the prototyping, to be done in the Fab Labs. Yeah.
Yes.
So, I guess my answer, my question was not answered, because I asked, okay. I really asked, I've been running that product 3 years now in the market. My question was I did the prototyping in Fab Lab, and I guess startup is not just about creating the product. I have heard something like if you created that amazing machine, but if you are not able to sell it, it's of no use. Right?
So what was your pain point? Your pain point was on selling it, or on the manufacturing part of it?
My pain point was on getting the right sort of mindset of the people who were mentoring me, because it took me like 2 years to get right people who can mentor me and take that product really to the market. Because I had everything. I had the prototype, it was working quite fine. I had everything integrated, but still people were not buying it. So
the problem is people are not buying it, or you are facing some difficulty on the manufacturing aspect of it?
No. Manufacturing and everything was, everything was going smooth. That's what I asked. Are you guys mentoring also?
So that is where I think, incubators and accelerators can come in.
Exactly. So what we are doing here
they have.
Exactly. So what we are doing is we are trying to connect, we have set of local bodies, and we have the incubators and global communities connected as Fab Foundation. We have other communities connected, and if we have a requirement coming up, and so we are connecting the requirement directly to the startups. So considering the stage of the COVID, so if I say mask, there are around 10 to 15 masks, that is this types of masks designed in Super Fab Lab. Okay, so what we are trying to do is, based on the requirement of the client, we are redirecting these inquiries to the startups, and based matching on the requirements, and we are helping the Super Fab Lab facility to manufacture it. So it's somehow we are able to fill that loop up to an extent.
I know the conversation is super interesting and everyone wants to keep on talking, but we have run out of time. And I think it's super interesting to see all of the efforts and everyone trying to support and join in the conversation. As I said in the chat, this is just a start. This is how we wanted to get the conversation going. Basically, now the invitation from the Fab Foundation and the Fab Foundation Forum is that you continue the conversation locally. This is the first start of how We want all communities to get together and share and interact and try to come with local solutions. So thank you so much for all the panelists here in this session. Thank you, Nishtha, for helping out and arranging all this incredible panelists with all these incredible stories. And I hope we're inviting you to our next session of a global talk from the North American network next Thursday. So at the same time to be decided, so we will send emails or stay connected through Facebook for the event hours. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Nishtha. I don't know if you want to say some last words.
Yeah, thank you so much, Narla and Francisco too, for making this possible and giving an opportunity for us to get together on one platform. To conclude, I think this was a very healthy discussion on the products and the journey and the challenges they came across. Major challenges were like regulation, permissions, and getting an essential entity tag for Fab Labs to be able to help the society during the lockdown or during the curfew times as an emergency response team. So we know now that the further plans and the next would be meeting these challenges. And for the same, I would be collecting the data from the Indian Fab Labs on the response to COVID so that we could bring all this together in terms of data and could share it ahead to bring Fab Labs into mainstream and be able to support in such pandemics in future. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon. Stay safe and bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Narela. Thanks, Nishtha.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.